Hi teachers, this is Rachel Gibbs on the elementary instruction team, and this is the virtual version of our Getting Started with EdTech and Amplifying Instruction. But you can see there is a link here and a QR code that will take you directly to this actual slideshow that I'm working through in the presentation. So I do suggest having that open kind of to the side as we go through the presentation, or coming back to that slideshow to be able to actually go in and try out all the different activities that are linked in and the resources that are linked in for you to use throughout the presentation. But probably honestly, the easiest way to kind of play around is to just have it open in another tab so that you can kind of pause the video and be able to try out some things that you think you would want to do with your students. So just starting off with a little bit of a motivational quote. So I love this idea of better an oops than a what if. I think the best way often to learn things is just by trying it out and learning from your mistakes. A lot of times as teachers, and especially when it comes to ed tech, we get nervous about trying out things that are new and uncomfortable and maybe even a little bit scary, but those are honestly the best ways that we learn. And wouldn't you rather be able to just say, oops, and I learned from it, than to wonder what you could have gotten out of something that you didn't try? And then also that idea of leap and the net will appear, kind of along the same lines. We have to be willing to take risks and challenge ourselves, just like we ask our students to take creative and critical thinking risks and challenge themselves every day in the classroom. So we owe our students to challenge ourselves that exact same way. Okay, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this particular page, but I did link in, like I mentioned at the beginning, there are links throughout the entire slideshow. So, and I'll kind of help you reference where those are as we go through. But this is a link to the National Association for the Education of Young Children. And they have some really good kind of research, sort of to back up the appropriateness for using technology, even with our youngest students. I know sometimes we kind of worry of whether we are offering that appropriate balance between using technology and then giving students the opportunity to have those real world experiences, and just the appropriate balance of how much time you're actually spending in front of technology and with those devices. And of course, it is important to offer that balance. But if you're ever kind of wanting some good founded research on that, or if you're needing to share that with parents, this is a great place to access some good research there. I think one of my biggest takeaways from their website is focusing a little more on quality versus quantity of time that students are spending with technology. So just kind of keeping that idea in mind, that of course you do want to give students balance, and not have them constantly sitting in front of their devices, but also what really makes a bigger impact or is a more important factor in that decision making process is thinking about what is the quality of what it is that they are doing when they're interacting with that device. If it's something that's meaningful and that they're growing from, then that's much more meaningful and valuable time, of course, than if it's a if the student is just staring at a YouTube video that they're not particularly learning from, or doing something else that maybe isn't quite challenging them. So why use technology? So as most of you hopefully remember from our intro to our one-to-one foundations meeting that we had, one of our biggest foundations in Madison City when it comes to the integration of one-to-one instruction is this pick-rat framework that we introduced to you all, and really thinking about moving our way up this matrix so that when we are using technology, it is offering us the opportunity to not just replace something that we really did just as well in the traditional setting for the sake of having the technology there, but really that we are making decisions about how we're using those tech tools that are allowing us to amplify our instruction to a place that takes that learning deeper than it was in the traditional presentation. of the activity, or that ultimately transforms that student learning to a place that could not happen without the technology. And just a couple of good examples of that are utilizing technology, like, for example, something like a Jamboard or a shared Google Slide, where students are able to much more easily communicate or collaborate with one another about what they're doing, and they can really grow and learn from one another because they're seeing what each student is working on and kind of learning from each other. And then all the way up to that transformative stage, we might even have students using technology to create an ultimate product to demonstrate their learning that they really couldn't do in any other way unless they had that tech tool to create that product. So really remembering to always make it about the learning and not about the technology. Our focus is always on what we want our students to learn, and then the technology should just be a conduit that is going to help us do a better job of making that learning more meaningful. I wanted to remind that we do have these 2 Google Basics sessions. So if you do feel like you could use a refresher on your understanding of Google Basics, these 2 sessions are divided into session 1, which is very focused on just understanding the Chrome browser, Google Drive, calendar, and email. And then session 2 is a little bit of a deeper dive into those individual apps that we use often with our Google Suite, Docs, Slide Sheets, and Forms. Really kind of a refresher crash course. For some, it could be a repeat of things you already know, or if you don't spend a lot of time using Google tools, this might be a really good kind of intro for you of really what kind of benefits you can reap from trying out Google tools, both for you and with your students. Okay, so we're going to really kind of start here with what we know. So before I start diving too deep into all these other possibilities of things you might try out, we're going to start with some things that we know we sort of already have in place. So I've listed out over to the left some of our integrated tech tools that we know we have. Of course, iReady is a fabulous tool to incorporate technology with your students. Not only is it going to give your students quality practice with skills that they're learning, it's also going to be offering you some really good formative information about where your students are in regards to their understanding of different skills, and then offering you 2 tools that you can use to meet their needs and expand upon their learning, and also to help you kind of guide where you're trying to target certain areas with your students. I listed ESGI. I know our kindergarten teachers are using that a lot. It's very beneficial for conducting those one-on-one assessments with our students. For those of you who haven't dug into our Big Ideas online dashboard yet, there is a ton there. So I really suggest taking a look into that. There are some great resources there for you as a teacher, but also some really cool things for students to be able to kind of interact with, like their online games that are offered for each chapter. They also have some online manipulatives, and then also that skill builder tool that is included in Big Idea. So take a look at some of those things that are already there. And then also, of course, we have extra math that our students use to practice their fluency skill, which is a nice little fluency practice, especially for those students who really kind of understand their skills and just need a little more practice in being efficient. It also, though, offers you some really good reports to be able to kind of pinpoint where your student needs are. So just kind of a reminder of some of those things that we already have in place. Also, the link here is going to take you to that spreadsheet that I talked a little about in our one-to-one intro meeting that I've been beginning to build, that kind of goes through and lists out some of the different tools that we do have to offer you from Madison City that you may not realize are out there. So don't forget that that link is there. And then I just kind of included some examples too of some really good extensions or add-ons that you may or may not know are available. Screencastify, of course, can be used to create screen videos, kind of similar to this one. This one I'm making is actually with Loom. There's actually tons of different ways to make screen videos. You can even, if you have a Mac, just use QuickTime Recorder or your screen recorder. And then the same thing for our students on their Chromebooks. They have screen record function too. And so I'm going to talk a little about that a little later, but I know a lot of our teachers enjoy using that Screencastify add-on. Another really powerful extension that I was going to speak for a minute about is Google Translate. I'm not sure how many of you have kind of taken the opportunity to investigate this, but I did want to show you really quickly kind of some of the cool, powerful things you can do with Google Translate. All right, so I pulled up a website just to be able to kind of show you how Google Translate works. Now, I know a lot of you probably maybe have had experience with using Google Translate in just in the actual Google tab. If you look up Google Translate, it's going to just pull up right at the top for you, and you can use it that way as well. But what I really like about the extension is it's kind of right there, and you don't have to worry about going back and forth between tabs to translate what you're trying to look at. So definitely for our EL students, when you're trying to share things with them virtually, this is a super powerful tool for them to be able to translate in their own language what it is that they're looking at. So when you click and open Google Translate up, right now I have mine set to translate to Japanese, but if you need to help a student with that, when you click extension options there, this is where you choose your primary language. So I'm going to leave mine in Japanese. And so you can see I have this website pulled up with all this different text on it. So when I open up Google Translate, I can choose to translate the entire page, and that's going to translate everything so that I can now read what it is that I'm looking at. Also, if there are certain things on the page, like for example, here, see, this isn't translating, so I might wonder what this says. So I can also open this up, and I can even just type that in, and it's going to show it to me and also play. So that's a pretty powerful tool for our students. And then also a reminder of that read write tool that we have, which is also really beneficial for our students who have some of those difficulties with print interference or kind of processing what they're reading from the screen. Okay, I wanted to talk for a second too before we get too deep into the actual tech tools about digital citizenship and care of device. These are really important prerequisites for our students. Just like our students need to understand just basic tech skills before they can really go deeply with what they're doing with their technology, they also need to have a basic understanding of what digital citizenship is and how to take care of their device. So hopefully you received a care of device poster. They're linked here for K2 and 3-5. Madison City printed those for all of our classrooms, and you should have one. If you don't, email me and I will make sure you get one. And then also we are working on a care of device module too that will be going out soon. So you'll also have that as a resource. As far as citizenship standard, or as far as digital citizenship, have a little space here just to note that we do have some official digital literacy and computer science digital citizenship standard resources that are coming out really soon. Our one-to-one team has been working on streamlining some of those for you all to be able to use with your students, so you should see those coming out soon. But some other things that are really nice to have and use with your kids in the meantime. This, if you click on it, is a resource actually for parents that I created, but it's also a good resource for you to use with your students, but also really a good thing for you to send home to your parents. It talks about what it means to build strong digital citizens, and it sends parents to lots of really good tip pages for covering different topics. And I really love this ability to sign up to receive text messages with tips on media balance and other tech tips for parents. And all of this comes from Common Sense Media, which is actually where I'm going next for you guys, for teachers. If you haven't dipped into Common Sense Education before, you really need to take a look around that website. It's fantastic. They have lots and lots of really good resources in the area of digital citizenship. They have an entire curriculum. And what I really love are these quick activities in grades K through 5. So they have these really good kind of 15-minute watch and reflect type activities where students just kind of watch a video and they give you some good guiding questions for these different digital citizenship topics in grades K through 5. But there's tons more on here. There's actually a full teacher professional development in digital citizenship, and lots of other things too. Student games you can see over here, and then another good thing for teachers outside of just digital citizenship on Common Sense Education, when you click into their ed tech reviews. They also have a really good collection of different tech tools, and you can kind of search for what you're looking for and see some suggestions. You can also search by grade, or they've got a top picks list. So Common Sense does a review of all of these different tools, so you can kind of read about what the tool does, and then also you can see the learning rating it was given, and it kind of helps you get some ideas for things you might like to try out in your classroom. BrainPop also has a great digital citizenship curriculum. So if that is something that your school pays for, then you can access all of their curriculum, or even if you don't have a paid account, then you can still access a couple of their free digital citizenship lessons, but they are fantastic as well. Okay, so now we're getting a little bit deeper into the resources for really helping our students to get to know their Chromebook and to feel comfortable with their Chromebooks. So here are a few resources you might like to use. So over here, and you can click on this and view it in the Google Slide template that I created, but this is basically just a kind of a coloring sheet of a Chromebook keypad. So especially for our very littles, like kindergarten first, kind of getting them familiar with what that Chromebook keyboard looks like. Something that's just kind of interesting to note about a Chromebook keyboard versus other keyboards is that all of the letters are lowercase. So if our students are used to working with a keyboard at home, there's a good chance that they may not have been using a Chromebook. Or if they haven't learned all their lowercase letters yet, that can be a little bit difficult too, trying to kind of make the association between the two. This is a really great Hyperdoc that I discovered to help your students get comfortable with their Chromebooks. So I'm just going to go ahead and open that up. When you click on it, it's going to ask you to make a copy. So it's called The Art of Learning to Use a Chromebook, and it takes the students through. So basically, you would share this on your Google Classroom or your Schoology or on Clever, or however you like to put things out and share with your students. And it's going to take them through how to do some of these basic tasks. So you can kind of see, for example, this one just kind of helps get them familiar with their arrow keys, and it's showing students how they can use those arrow keys by clicking on the monkey and then using the arrow keys to move them around. They also have little tutorial videos that they can watch as needed on each slide, but it takes them through lots of great basic Chromebook skills. Also, you can see I put in the top corner that you really need to have this awesome visual in your classroom. I have some copies of this at the central office, so if you are completing this virtually and you would like me to send one to you, just shoot me an email after you finish the PD and I will send it to you. It's a really good visual, and it provides an overview of those special keys at the top of the Chromebook, some basic keyboard shortcuts that are really helpful, some touchpad shortcuts, and I really like this section down here that talks through some basic troubleshooting of issues that may arise, especially with the touchpad on a Chromebook. The links here also take you to some other really good websites that have great visuals and tutorials for the keyboard and the trackpad. You can kind of see here, kind of labeling what the different parts of the keyboard do. That's good for us as teachers too, if you don't know all of those things yet, but also a good way to kind of introduce some of those to your students. Okay, this slide is a little more focused on K2, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but 3-5 teachers, by all means, if you would like to come back and check out some of these other templates or some of these other suggestions, of course, feel welcome to. We're going to go ahead and move to the 3-5, building basic tech skills. So I've got several resources linked in here for you that I think are really great places to start or to kind of familiarize you with some things that your students' Chromebooks can do that you may not be aware of. This video here, I'm not going to click and play the whole thing because you can come back in and click and play yourself, but this video does a really good job walking you through everything that you can do with a student Chromebook camera. There's really tons that you can do just function-wise with the camera, but also it gives you ideas of ways you can utilize the camera within your instruction, like to have students capture evidence of what they're doing or even share explanations with you of things that they're working through. I'm going to come back to this one last because we're actually going to go in and do a quick little let's try it activity. Down here I have linked a couple of typing websites. I mean, I'm sure you guys just naturally know that typing is a huge, super important skill for your students to be able to do in order to be successful with utilizing technology. It's also a piece of our DLCS now, our digital literacy and computer science standards. So we do need to ensure that our students understand how to use their keyboard correctly. These are just a couple of suggestions. I know a lot of you are probably pretty familiar with Typing Agent because we've used it a lot in the past. Typing.com is another good one just to offer that basic typing practice to your students. Down here are some examples of infographic templates. These actually come from SlidesGo. You can also, there are other template banks like Slide Carnival, but I love these templates, not only just to create cool slideshow templates, but they really can be integrated into instruction pretty easily. A lot of them are actually already kind of set up for instructional projects. For example, this one is kind of set up as a book report. One of the others that I had linked into the slide was kind of setting up a diagram of the water cycle. So there's lots of things that might already be kind of pre-made that kind of go with your instruction. Or you can kind of look through and see what different options are available, and even kind of pull some and alter them to go with your instruction so that students can kind of just type into pre-made templates. That's a good place to kind of start as students get more comfortable with creating their own presentations or infographics. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to come back. I'm going to go to this one last. So Alice Keeler, if you guys have not heard of her, is one of my very, very favorite ed tech kind of gurus. I've got her entire website linked here, so please feel free to go back and explore her entire website. One of my favorite things that she puts out, though, are her templates that you can just take and use as is, or that you can sort of alter to fit your own needs. So I'm going to click into her templates page. And you can see here the listing. A lot of them are within Google Slides, but some are also Google Docs or Google Sheets. But you can kind of scroll through and see all these really cool templates that she has created. For example, here's a division template where you're doing division with brownies. So you can kind of click and open it up. And it's going to take you into the template that that she created. This one is a Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to show you an example in a minute of one that's a Google slide. You can also click in the second or the third column, and you can go into the actual blog post from Alice Keeler, and she'll kind of explain what the template is. Click into this one. So this is her vocabulary scavenger hunt template, and I encourage you, I'm going to click into the let's try it and just kind of show it to you, but I encourage you to go back in and click into it and actually add your own information into it. We click into it. it's going to take us into the shared slideshow. So basically, I just clicked that template on her website and I clicked to copy the document, and it made me my own copy of her vocabulary scavenger hunt slideshow. And so then I was able to go in and kind of add whatever I wanted to add, and then share it via the link with you guys. You guys can also use your Google Classroom, or you can use Schoology to share slideshows for your students to work in collaboratively. I'm going to talk you through how this one works, and then if you want to go try it out, then please do that, and I'll kind of talk about some benefits from using shared slideshows. So on the first page, you've got your directions to insert the picture of the word and then explain the definition of the word. There's my example. Some word options to choose from, and then this shows the two different ways that you might add pictures with an image. And you can see some examples that some of our other teachers who completed the session have put in. So that's how this particular shared slideshow works. Now, what I really love about a collaborative slideshow, to me, I think these are the very best way to get your students started with using ed tech tools collaboratively. The great thing about Google Slides is that we can be working together and I can see what you're doing, but I also have my own slide space. So this is my space to work in, and I don't really have to worry that you are typing in my particular space, because we're not sharing the same slide, but we are within a shared slideshow. So that's really awesome. Now, that being said, you are always going to have those students who accidentally, or maybe not accidentally, click into someone else's slide and try to kind of play with things. So it's good to warn your students up front about that. Maybe talk with your students about trust and the expectation that they are not altering someone else's slide. And hopefully you wouldn't need to do this, but worst case scenario, you can actually go up here and you can kind of see who has been editing recently. So it allows you to see if someone has been changing someone else's slides. You can go into the revision history. So if I click the drop down here, it's going to let me sort of see what students were doing at different points in time. So if I click here, I can kind of scroll through and see who was doing what. And it's associated with the color of the dot. So I can kind of tell by what color outline I see on the slide who was doing what. You can see this one is gray, so that one was Miss Russell. So if you do have that student that is messing with other people's stuff, you're able to kind of come back and catch them if you have to. Also with Google Slides, a really good command to know is undo. So if a student accidentally does something like delete the entire slideshow or erase something that they didn't mean to, they can click undo quickly. Or you can again go back into that revision history. You can go back to a previous version or copy just a particular slide from a previous version. But yes, learning that undo command or Control-Z is a good thing for students to know how to do. So that's just an example of a collaborative slideshow, one of the many templates that you can find on Alice Keeler's website. Okay, so these are just a few more teacher tips, kind of going a little bit past some of the things we already talked about. One really good thing to know, if you don't already know this, is that you can link websites to your Clever page. So I know everyone knows that we have certain services or apps that are already linked to our Clever page that we use consistently because they roster our students, but you can also link just any website that you want. Every website might not necessarily work with Clever to roster for you, but you can take any website link and put it on your Clever page for easy access. And so this is another one of the GIFs that I talked about in the color slideshow. So this is showing you how you can do that once you're on a page and you go to the add button at the bottom right corner of the page. You're going to get that option to add a link. You can copy and paste a link from anywhere. This one is to CS First Coding Curriculum. And then I can just paste that link in there, and then that's going to add to that Clever page so that you can just send your students to Clever to access it. This is the link to easyGIF.com. There are several of these, but if you're interested in being able to create some of these short videos that you can translate into a GIF that will just play over and over again on a slide, then that's where you can go to do that. This is a really great tutorial up here, and actually this Pocket Full of Primary, a lot of you are probably already familiar with her, but she has lots and lots of great suggestions and info on how to utilize tech tools in your classroom. But this is one that I think is very helpful, especially if you're getting interested in utilizing those Google slide templates, and maybe even interested in taking one that you found and altering it, or creating one completely on your own after you've tried out some of the others from the bank that you really enjoyed. This video will show you how you can create your own drag and drop Google slide activities, and specifically how you can apply an image to your background so that you can put elements on your background that don't move, so that you can share something with your students so that they can edit it and manipulate it, but it won't move the elements that you want to stay put in the background. This is just another set of Chromebook tips, kind of similar to the ones that we introduced in the beginning, but I like the way these are presented. I think they're very user-friendly. My thought, kind of as I saw these, is this might be a cool thing to pull up even during morning meeting, or maybe at a time when everyone is going to have their Chromebook open at the same time. Maybe if you have some tech activity that you do regularly, like for example, if everyone is going to be participating in iReady at the same time during a given day of the week, it might be cool to pull up one or two of these and let some kids try them out to start to get familiar with how to do some of these things. So as you go through, there's several different tips that show you how to do different things. This is a great one, Control-Shift-Tab, even for you adults when you accidentally close one of those tabs in your browser window that you didn't mean to close, you can open it right back up. Anyway, there's tons on here. Would be just a cool thing to kind of pull up, let kids try, and talk about it a little. The last thing listed on this slide, I think I skipped over how to use Chromebook camera features. This just takes you to the just the info page on how to utilize your student's Chromebook camera. There's lots you can do with that as far as capturing screenshots or evidence of work that your students have completed. They can even record videos of themselves or of their screen, and where they can explain things that they want you to be able to watch back. So if that's something you're interested in learning more about, you can click there to get more information on how to utilize your Chromebook camera. This is another really cool one that people tend to love if they haven't already heard about it. But we know how easy it can be to get our students to a website or to a resource if we have a QR code. Since, speaking of those Chromebook camera features, a student's Chromebook camera can read a QR code. So if you, one thing that's cool to know how to do is you can quickly generate a QR code from any website. And I'm going to do one for this slide that I'm on, for example. So when I click the share button right here and I choose QR code, it's going to pop up a QR code right there for the website that I am on. So now, as long as I have my share settings, this is a Google slide, so as long as I have my share settings set correctly, but normally on any regular website, when you click that, your students are going to be able to come up and use their Chromebook to scan that code, and then they can go directly to the site. So if someone's having a hard time navigating somewhere, that's just a quick tip to help get them where you want them to go. All right, well, we've talked about a lot, and I've tried to really dig in this particular session into some of the super basics and really good startup activities for your students who maybe aren't super familiar with utilizing their Chromebook yet or with utilizing Google Tools. But if you do utilize Google Tools a little more and you think your kids are ready for something a little more, these are some more suggestions of things that you might want to try. Here I have links to some different scavenger hunts or tutorial templates for these 4 main Google tools that I at least find myself using most with students. So when you click into each one, it's going to take you into a scavenger hunt for that particular tool. So this one is for Google Docs. Dr. Caitlin Tucker is who created these. They're really great resources. When you click into that Google Docs scavenger hunt she created, it's going to ask you to make a copy. Then once you've made the copy, you can really do whatever you want to with this. So you don't have to keep these particular vocab words and everything. You can replace it with questions and items that make sense with your curriculum. And it looks kind of boring just looking at it right now with all these questions, but what's really cool is that students are going to be learning about the curriculum that you insert into this Google Doc by answering questions or looking up definitions, but they're going to also be learning about all the tools that they can use within a Google Doc at the same time by exploring the tool menu up here and figuring out how to do those things. So for example, right here it's asking us to use the define tool. You would want to try and let your students figure it out on their own, but I always kind of tell mine, obviously most of these things are tools, so always start in tools and you're probably going to figure out how to do it. When they click in there, they're going to be able to go into dictionary and then type in those words or copy and paste those words over to figure out the definition. What's really neat about this, and the biggest challenge, is that students should be able to do absolutely everything they are asked to do on this page without leaving the Google Doc ever. So like for example here with the Explore tool, if students do that, it's going to take them right to a browser window, right to like a google.com search window inside their document. For example, this one asks for California's highest peak. So when I search that, it's going to start pulling up information for me. I can also go to images. Another cool side note on images that students retrieve this way when they are actually inside a Google Doc or on a Google Slide is that these images have already been filtered for Creative Commons license. So that's another good thing to know if you're doing any kind of project on a Google Doc or a Google Slide, that if students actually use the Explore tool within, they can ensure that they aren't using copyrighted images when they're inserting something into their project. So anyway, just a great activity to kind of familiarize students with how to use a doc. There's a very similar one for slides. Slides might be even a little bit more user-friendly because there's not quite as much text on each slide, but same concept. You can take the Google Slide Scavenger Hunt and then alter the content in it to fit with whatever you're teaching at the current time, and then students are also getting acclimated with all these different cool things that they can do with a Google Slide. Caitlin Tucker also has one for Google Sites. That might start to get just a little bit more advanced, but Google Sites are definitely super transformative for students. I mean, you can't really create a Google site. You can't really create a site any other way than with technology, so you're definitely transforming your instruction through technology when you're using a site, and they're actually not that difficult to figure out how to use. It's basically drag and drop. So if your students are comfortable with docs and slides, sites might be a good place to go to next. I know for K2 that might be a little much. This last one, the Google Drawing, this one is not actually a scavenger hunt. It is more of a tutorial, and it's one that I created. Caitlin Tucker doesn't have one for Google Drawings. Google Drawings can do a lot of the same things as a slide, so if you can use a slide, you might just prefer to do that. If you want to make a diagram, Google Drawings is a really good option. So if you or your students are interested in figuring out more on how to use a Google Drawing, this tutorial that I created has lots of little eye icons, and when you click on those, it's going to pull up little tutorial videos that show you how to insert the different elements that I have inserted in this particular Google Drawing. Okay, another great option if you're looking for a little bit more of an extension is Canva. Canva is really appropriate, I think, for really any grade level of student. And there's so much that you can do with it. So I'm going to click into Canva really quickly. A lot of you are probably already kind of familiar with it. It's got lots of uses for you as a teacher too, but then you can also do some cool projects with your kids. Basically, Canva has tons of templates of just about anything that you can think of. When you click this templates drop down, you're going to be able to kind of see all the different options that they have. With students, I think what I have benefited the most out of are using posters, flyers, or infographics. And also cards are another good way to utilize Canva, especially for your younger students who you want to give them a little bit of opportunity just to kind of type some basic things or play with drag and drop elements. So when we click into cards, let's just kind of get a quick example of what Canva looks like. So maybe you're using this to create thank you cards for someone. They've got tons of thank you options. Maybe you're going to have your students create thank you cards for someone who recently visited your classroom. Or if you're going to do greeting cards of some type, maybe you're doing Valentine's cards or Mother's Day cards. I'm going to type Mother's Day card. Let's see what we find. Okay, there's tons of different options on here. So maybe students are going to pick one that they like, click customize this template, and then I could see even like our K being able to do some of this. They can change around elements. If they want to add in a text box, they can put in a little text box, and they can type their name on the card, and it's very kind of drag and drop based, so they can even kind of drag and pull to make things bigger or smaller. So lots of options, lots of things to choose from to create some really cool, authentic products to demonstrate learning or to practice skills with Canva. And they do, from time to time, they may be having a special running right now, but they do educational accounts. So they do free accounts for teachers very often, where you can just set up your account and then enroll your students with a code or with their email addresses, and then you're able to monitor the projects that they are working on. This link here is just really takes you to lots of cool creative ways you might go to have your students demonstrate their learning. So again, if you've already tried out a lot of these other things like the Google tools and you feel like you want something a little different, maybe there's a particular unit where you want, or a lesson where you want students to demonstrate their learning in a more creative way rather than just answering questions or taking a test, you can go here and it's got a great bank of different creative products that you could have your students create using technology. For example, let's say we're going to do a comic strip. You want them to do a comic strip writing. So when I click that, it's going to show different digital tools you might have your students use and even some project ideas. So lots of great options of ways students can demonstrate their learning creatively with tech. This link here is going to take you to CS First Coding Curriculum. If you are interested in getting your students started with coding and you want to start with something that is much less intimidating and kind of easy to get going with, it's even a good way for you to familiarize yourself with coding if you don't feel super comfortable with it. This is a really great place to go. So CS First combines Google tools and Scratch to introduce students to coding with some really cool lessons that are just pre-made for them. So you can send your students straight to this csfirst.withgoogle.com and have them just go into curriculum and choose the project that they're going to work on, or you can actually sign in to CS First with your Google account and you can create a teacher dashboard where then you can assign specific projects to your students to work on. I personally really like these hour of code projects. They are very easy to manipulate and they are going to help you get started feeling comfortable with coding. And to be honest, we're really kind of to that point where coding really is like a necessity for students at this point. It's a common language that really almost anyone needs to know moving forward in tons of different types of careers. And it's actually even a requirement in our digital literacy and computer science standards that our students are being introduced to coding concepts. So this is a great way to get started with that. My favorite one to start with, or actually my favorite two, are these two: animate a name and create your own Google logo. And some of these very easily kind of fit into your curriculum already, but all of them are very easy for you to manipulate into your curriculum. For example, if you're going to create your own Google logo, maybe you're going to challenge your students to create a logo that represents the recent topic that you've been learning about, and maybe within their logo you want them to be presenting a certain number of facts about that topic or something like that, because they can code little talk bubbles, or they can even create their code to have them self-saying facts, so they can kind of be creative with that. So you can make any of it fit with your curriculum. The way it works, just a quick walkthrough, and you can come back and play more with it, but when students click into those lessons, it's going to take them here. They can get kind of an overview and an example. When they click start, it is going to take them into the intro lesson, and you can see right here they have instructions to the right, but they're very basic instructions, so you can also just kind of tell them that they're going to watch the intro video.
Hi, I'm Olga. I'm a proud Latina Googler, and I work in our computer science education department.
So the video is going to walk them through the basics of the project that they're going to be doing, and give them some intro information that they need. Then it has them open that Scratch Starter project, which is right here. I'll click that in a minute. And then notice 3 is return to this page and watch more videos to customize your logo. That's where some students get lost. So when you're helping them, you might need to make sure that they know they have to click back to this tab to see more videos on how to customize their project. But when they click that starter project link, it's going to take them into Scratch. If they have an account, they can sign in. If you have them signed in through CS First, they're going to naturally be signed in, or they can just continue without signing in. And it's going to open their own little personal Scratch window for them to code in, and then they're going to be able to click back to this tab, and you can see down here there are all these other little tutorial videos that show them very simply how to create different animations through their code, or how to code their logo to change visually, to say something, how to do a backdrop. It shows them how to do all kinds of different cool things within their code, and very simple to use. I would encourage, if nothing else, for you to maybe even try it out if you've not tried coding before. I think it will help you start to feel a little more comfortable with coding and get some ideas of how it might fit into your curriculum. These are even more resources. I know we might be starting to get a little bit overwhelming at this point. I'm talking about lots of different things, but remember, this is kind of the last slides in our module. So we're really getting to the point where we're thinking past the basics. So if you feel like your students are good with some of those intro things we talked about in the beginning, then these are even more things you might look into. So collaborative Google Slides activities from Ditch That Textbook. I love this website. They have lots more great collaborative Google Slides activities, kind of similar to those that I talked about earlier with either Christine Pinto or Alice Keeler. Those templates where students can get in and work collaboratively to manipulate the slide or to add their own creative pieces into it. Padlet is a great website that students can use to create interactive products. Or a couple of cool things that Padlet offers are the opportunity to create maps or timelines where students can create interactive pieces onto the map or timeline. So there's just tons of cool things you can do with that. Control-Alt-Achieve also is a great collection of interactive activities for students. He has a lot of things within Google Drive and Google Docs. When you click into any of these options, you're going to see all these different cool activities that are organized by the content area that they fit with. Hyperdocs is another cool thing to try out. That might be getting a little bit deeper, but a really cool thing for you to try out if you haven't. I introduced you to that one Hyperdoc in the beginning, the Get to Know Your Chromebook Hyperdoc, and this is two different Hyperdoc libraries. Going to click into this first one just for you to kind of see. This is the one that the Chromebook Hyperdoc came from. I love hers. She's got lots of great different options. And remember, basically a Hyperdoc is just a Google slide. It's kind of almost like a worksheet that is interactive. So I'll quickly click into this one. You can kind of see a quick example. So this one's obviously focused on antonyms. There's an explore section where students can watch some videos to kind of educate themselves on the topic. There's an explain piece. There's an apply piece. And then at the end, there is a create section. So some of it you would want to kind of go in and alter yourself. And this is just one example of one Hyperdoc. There's tons of different templates that are organized differently and on tons of different topics. So if you want to explore those libraries, maybe you want to try that out. Hyperdocs are super easy to link into your Google Classroom or Schoology and share with students that way so that it creates their own version of the activity that they can complete. All right, so in this portion of our face-to-face session, we would be at the point where I would encourage you guys to kind of go back through some of the resources, click back into some of the links and explore if you haven't, and kind of try and decide on something that you want to take back into the classroom like tomorrow. Some good questions to sort of ask yourself as you're doing that. Is there a particular lesson or unit that you really just want to amp up to the next level? Is there a particular subject area or a topic that you really want to encourage more collaboration? Since most of these resources allow students to collaborate, that's another good way to sort of think about how you would like to take this back into the classroom. Or is there just an area where you would like to integrate more technology? Is there a place where you know technology isn't really normally utilized a ton and you want to figure out a creative way to incorporate technology to amplify or transform that instruction? If you're still stuck, this is a great little resource that you can use to think through choosing a tool to elevate a lesson. It kind of takes you through setting your goal for what you're trying to accomplish, what's the proven instructional strategy that you know is going to help students work towards that goal, and then thinking through what tool do you want to use to elevate that strategy to amplify and transform to the highest level. And then down here you've got your one sentence lesson plan. So kind of taking it back to that original thought process with making sure that the focus is really on amplifying the instruction to the next level. Not about just using tech for tech's sake to say that you use technology in your lesson, but choosing a technology tool that is truly going to amplify or transform the lesson in some way, either through your instruction or allow for some of those beneficial experiences, like allowing your students to be more creative or to collaborate. And so I encourage you guys to try some things that are new, maybe try some things that feel a little bit scary. That is when you know that you are trying something really cool that you are going to grow from. It's normal to feel scared and it's actually good. So I hope you guys will try out some of these new things with your students and just anticipate that it's not going to go perfect. It's just not going to be perfect the first time, and you're going to learn from that too. Just kind of be ready for that, prepare your students for that, and just have fun with it. Try to let go, let loose a little bit, and I think you'll come away having learned a lot. This is a reminder of some of our upcoming PDs that we still have available. So if you can attend some of those, that would be great. These are optional PD sessions at Central Office that are going to give you some more ideas and how to utilize tech in different ways with your students or just for yourself. Also, if there's anything from this session that you would like to talk more about, if there's something that you want to try but you have a question, or maybe something that I went through sort of quickly and you're really kind of unsure on how to do that, please feel free to reach out to me anytime via email or phone. It's listed here. I'm happy to come and visit you anytime, or to talk to you on the phone or through email, and we'll work through any kind of question that you might have. Or if you want some help with planning an activity or a project, or if you already have a great project planned and you just want to invite me to come take a look and see what you're doing, I would love to come and visit your classroom and see some of the cool things that you guys are trying out. So please do reach out to me. Also, make sure that you are sharing the really great things that you are doing on Twitter to our EdTech MCS page, or to me through Twitter, and using that hashtag MCSLearn. If you don't use Twitter, then just share pictures with me via email and I will share them on Twitter and celebrate you. And then finally, since you have completed this module, please be sure to use the link here to click and answer just 3 brief questions to provide a little bit of feedback and to receive your PD credit for completing the session. The link's also available on the elementary instruction site, as well as lots of other really great PDs that you are invited to complete virtually. I hope that you guys got some ideas for things that you want to try out with your students. Please do share when you try new things out. I love to see how you guys are utilizing tech in your classroom and how things are going. So please do reach out and let me know when you're trying out some of these ideas. Thank you guys for all that you do and for always pushing yourself and challenging yourself to try new things and to grow yourself as teachers. I appreciate all of you. Everybody have a great day.